UFC Louisville is a solid fight card outside of the Apex, and I think it is absolutely loaded with live underdogs. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks, and I'm going to break down the entire UFC Louisville fight card, giving you my picks, predictions, and bets. But before I do, let's quickly talk about UFC 302. This thumbnail, the Home Alone face. There's a 40-minute video of me breaking down every single fight that happened last night. Overall, I thought it was a pretty mediocre fight card. I did not think UFC 302 was that good. Obviously, the main event delivered. So you leave the night, you lay down after spending $90 freaking dollars on a pay-per-view, and you're like, that was good. But if you zoom out and look at the card objectively, it wasn't that good of a card. There were some highlights. We had a broken arm. We had a banger of a main event. We had a surprisingly good women's MMA fight in the second fight of the night. But if you want to check out all of the reactions, the recap, and all of my feelings at UFC 302, go check out that video on the channel now. This is the thumbnail. I get it. I get it. People, stop doing the surprise face. It's so stupid. I mean, you're probably right. You're probably right. I just need to sit down and take a million more pictures and do different faces. This should be a disappointment. This should be a... Like, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It did cost $90. That should be the face for that thumbnail. But go ahead and check that video out if you want to get all the thoughts for UFC 302. And if you want to get all the picks and all the bets, you can become a premium member. Safety Parlay back on track. Safety Parlay actually dominates pay-per-views in general. But overall, it does hit at almost a 70% event rate. The lifetime ROI is 25%. This is from a single bet, and I am very, very confident in the UFC Louisville Safety Parlay. If you want to unlock that bet, you can do so now. It's only freaking $10 a month, and we are in the UFC 303 window. If you signed up last night for UFC 302, you're Gucci. You're good. I don't know why I keep saying Gucci. It is such a loser thing to say. No offense to people who use Gucci as like a screen name or something. I'm just saying in your actual vernacular, when you're just a suburban dude living, Gucci's not really the suburban dad way to speak. Either way, Safety Parlay does do well. If you signed up for 302, you are good to go. You will get this card, every other card, and then UFC 303. If you have not signed up yet, you might as well. On a little bit of a streak here, UFC 303 is at the end of this month. It will be included in your membership. Just go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top. It's only $10 for the entire month. As I mentioned, this month will give you a whole bunch of events, including what might be the biggest pay-per-view of all time. And membership is more than just a safety parlay and some bets. You're also going to get tools like the line movement tracker. This is going to give you the opening odds, the current odds, the win probability, and the line movement for every fighter on every card. Specifically, this card, we had a handful of people that opened as dogs that look like they will close as favorites. You're also going to get detailed data, metrics, and analytics. 38 columns of information that you can use to find your spots, find your bets, jump into those prop bets. You're going to get the best DraftKings ownership projections in the world. These are the ownership projections from UFC 302 last night. We had the best projections on the planet. We're beating out the giant DFS companies that are charging $100 a month per sport. We are beating them with these numbers, and they will be preloaded into the DraftKings optimizer. This optimizer will build projections for you. They'll build lineups for you. They will be preloaded with everything that you need. You click a few buttons, it will spit out DraftKings lineups. You're also going to get more than just this beautiful face and baby red. You're going to get Artem, giving you not only his UFC picks and bets, but also his breakdowns for all of the regional shows as well. You're going to get Running Mouth MMA. There are 3 of them. And you're going to get Pick GPT. That is an artificial intelligence that is picking fights based solely off of historical data, and it is doing so at a remarkable accuracy. Every single thing I just mentioned, a whole bunch of things I did not mention, are available right now for not only this card, but every card in an entire month for only $10. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. Let's talk about UFC Louisville. It's actually a decent card. It is loaded. There are 14 fights on this card. We just got a pay-per-view with 12 fights, and one of them was wildly short notice to try to keep that thing together. This has 14 fights, no drops yet, no short notice step-ups. Like, this is a card that's been put together for a while. I do imagine that's when things come off the rails. It's been too quiet. Like, the UFC has been so focused on UFC 302, they haven't even attempted to make sure that this is together. But for now, we've got 14 fights. And opening up the UFC Louisville fight card, we have Andrea Lee taking on Montana De La Rosa in a win or go home match. What didn't the WWE call that something? What'd they call that? I forget. I think they had those matches, right? But that's what this is. Whoever wins this fight will fight another time. Whoever loses this fight will be fired. Both of them are on some pretty unfortunate losing skids. 4-fight skid for Andrea Lee, 3-fight skid for Montana De La Rosa. And it's kind of a shame because they are both good fighters. Andrea Lee, a good striker. Montana, a good grappler. As we know, Andrea Lee is a dynamic striker. And she uses the basics well. You're not going to see anything crazy out of her, but she is incredibly tough. Her grappling continues to get better. She's averaging almost 2 takedowns per fight. She actually took Miranda Maverick down twice in her last fight, which was a close loss. Takedown defense can use some work, though. It's 55%, but her striking is clean. She has success when she can just dictate the striking and not have to do anything else. She is on that 4-fight losing skid, and that does indicate that her career has fallen off of a cliff. But if you look a little closer, they're not the worst losses in the world. She is losing to some of the better people in the division. She's taken on Montana De La Rosa. She is a very tough wrestler with a pretty one take in, I was like, you know what? It's 14 fights and I can do one take and I can push through this. But you're going to see the Fight Foods vlog. And if you don't know what that is, for all the pay-per-views, we film a vlog. We hang out. People come over. We cook. We do all the things. We watch the fights. Yesterday's was a little different. We had a little bit of a pool party. It was nice outside. I drank gallons of summer beer, gallons of jungle juice. And I think the brain's going to be a little foggy, and I'm going to film more. And I don't know if you can see, I trained yesterday, and I bit my tongue twice, so tongue swollen. It's not a speech impediment. It is a swollen tongue from training. We have Montana De La Rosa. Very tough wrestler. Very straightforward game plan in her fights. Come forward, strike as little as possible, look to wrestle. Her wrestling is real. She didn't just start to wrestle when she became an MMA fighter. She was wrestling long before she decided to fight. She's wrestled most of her life. You can see that in how she grapples. Her striking is improving, but she can struggle to get her hands going. She is riding a losing streak, unfortunately. The most recent one being to JJ Aldrich, where she abandoned that fight style. Seemed to abandon the wrestling, only attempted one single takedown. And frankly, I don't know what to do here. I keep flip-flopping my picks. On one hand, Andrea Lee is the far better striker. And if she defends just a handful of takedowns, this could look like a clinic. If this was in Vegas, Andrea Lee would be a sure thing. Because you know how Vegas hates wrestlers. Takedowns that don't absolutely destroy your face, you're a useless loser, and we're not going to give you the round. Vegas hates wrestlers. It's not in Vegas, though. Maybe we get some old school judges that have the old school mindset of wrestling matters. And that's what's making this so difficult, because while Andrea Lee can defend a few takedowns, land some solid strikes, and win this fight, she also can get taken down. Montana De La Rosa is a wrestler. This could be a wet blanket, Grant Dawson, boring as shit, 15-minute lay on top kind of fight. I am going to slightly lean Andrea Lee, though. Montana De La Rosa didn't even try to wrestle in her last fight. Why would I think that she's going to wrestle nonstop in this fight? I got to go Andrea Lee, by the thinnest margin you have ever seen, and the easiest bet on planet Earth is the over 2.5. It's probably juiced. It's not out yet. When it is out, it'll be minus 400, but we'll find some spots. We'll parlay that with some other stuff. But I'm going to Andrea Lee as the pick, but I'm not betting on her. I will hammer that over 2.5 round line. And then we have Sexy Mexi taking on Daniel Marcos. And Daniel Marcos is a good fighter as well. These are all very good matchups. The last fight, this fight, and a couple more, the odds are dead even. And there's some really good matchups here. Daniel Marcos, this guy's an effective striker. He's got power. He's accurate. He does a nice job stringing together combinations while marching forward. He'll throw 1-2s. He'll follow them up with flying knees and elbows. Takedown defense is a very solid 89%. He has 8 knockouts, 7 decisions. So we know that he can be dangerous and he can stay tough and work his way to a full 15-minute fight. He is coming off that no contest when he blasted Arichi Lang in the nuts 2 times. Just lit that dude's testicles up. He's taking on John Sexy Mexi Castaneda. And that's his nickname. I'm not just here nicknaming how attractive a dude with only a mustache is. That's not where we're at here. Okay. This isn't like, it's June, but it's not that kind of June. That's just his nickname. His nickname is Sexy Mexi. He gave it to himself. I didn't give it to him. Happy Pride Month, but it is what it is. He's a really fun fighter. A really fun fighter, a come forward fighter. He's well-rounded. He will throw everything. He sets an incredible pace. He's a former Division II wrestler who loves coming forward with fast hands and then shooting takedowns when he has the opening. He doesn't have a ton of power, but he makes up for that with just that forward pressure and a wide variety of strikes. He's coming off that straightforward win over Kyung Ho Kang, where he controlled the striking and the grappling. You're going to see Daniel's record, 15-0. You're going to immediately jump to conclusions. He looks like a savage on paper. And while I agree he is very good, a lot of those wins are way closer than they should be. Just that green dot on Tapology doesn't tell you the full story. It will have you thinking that he's just dominating people. He barely beat Davey freaking Grant. And some people think he was even losing his last fight before he castrated Arichi Lang. I love the nonstop pressure. I love the pace. Hopefully we'll get some takedown attempts out of Castaneda. So he's going to be the pick. I think this is a close fight either way. It's likely going to be a really fun fight. It will be a decision. So betting the over might be a decent spot as well here. We just saw UFC 302, the most decisions I've seen. I mean, we got, 2 finishes on that card? This could be similar, even though I do think there's a lot of live underdogs that are going to be showing up ready to go. Then we have the terrifying on the microphone, Charlie Radtke taking on Carlos Prates. Charlie Radtke is an athletic grappler. He's going to lower his level. He's going to take some shots. He will immediately work for positions. He is very controlled on the ground and very dangerous. He only has 1 takedown in the UFC, so everything I just said doesn't make sense if you've only seen his UFC fights. But if you go back and if you look at the regional tape, this dude's shooting, this dude's grappling, and that's what he is. He also has some very good hands, and they have looked so good so far. When he does get a fight to the ground, he's going to hunt for submissions, and he will transition really well between them. But he does do some nonsense, like pulling guillotines, chasing other submissions that aren't really there, and then he'll lose a couple of positions. He tends to slow down as the fight goes on, and he can be hittable, but he throws with power. He is very tough, and he's coming off that first-round knockout win over Gilbert Urbina. He's taking on Carlos Prates. This guy's a dangerous striker with big power and range control. He is pretty light on his feet, and he manages to throw kicks to any part of your body whenever he wants to. He's going to launch a head kick. He's going to do it at the drop of a dime. He'll throw a spinning kick. He'll defend most takedowns that come his way. He's got very low hands in his stance and just sort of like nice and wide and moves forward, almost like that Alex Pereira type stance. And while he is coming off a knockout win over Trevin Giles, I want to remind you that he was losing that fight and doing literally nothing up until that punch. And as many of you know, I watch the fights. I have my laptop in front of me. The notes that I am reading right now, I am taking while watching the fight, so that in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, I break down that fighter, I can adjust my notes. And I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the notes. And my notes for Carlos's last fight were, and I apologize, earmuffs, they literally said, these are the notes I took in the moment, do nothing pussy who needs to land 1 punch. And okay, with that being said, I can't pick Carlos Prates here. I can't pick a do nothing P word. I actually went back and I rewatched that fight because I'm like, this wasn't very helpful outside of maybe I was angry in the moment. I wasn't angry in the moment. I picked him to win. I bet on him to win. I'm glad he won. But he literally was doing nothing. While my notes were crude, they were very accurate. Carlos did not look good. He clearly has some incredible power. But I do feel like someone with a solid chin who is willing to engage can have success. I told you I think this is a live dog card. And we're dogging it. I'm going to pick Charlie here. Obviously, this dude could end up face down on the mat, regretting somewhere. I can't believe they have him fighting in June. After the things he said on the microphone, they had this guy fighting in June. Well, isn't that a slap in the face? Just realize that. He could obviously get knocked out here. That's what Carlos Prates does. But I think Charlie Radtke's just forward pressure, his unwillingness to care about what comes back his way can do him some good here. If Carlos Prates takes his time, he just waits for that one big punch and doesn't find it, Charlie Radtke can win this fight. The lack of volume, the backing up, that's just not somebody I can count on. So for now, Carlos Prates is a fade. He may prove me wrong. I'm not betting on this. I'm not that confident, but got to do a pick. And based on their last couple of performances, I'm going Charlie Radtke, and for the love of God, do not give that guy the microphone in June. That would be crazy. Then we have Thiago Moises taking on Ludovit Klein. This is a very interesting matchup, and I imagine this is going to be moved up the card as we get closer to fight night. But for now, they have it surprisingly early. We've got Thiago Moises. This guy is tried and true, 18-7. But it's not 18-7 like a hollow record beating up bums in the middle of nowhere. He has been in the UFC for an insanely long time for a guy that's not even 30, and he has fought some of the highest level of competition while he was here. He's a very slick grappler. He does a great job of staying dangerous while being composed, meaning he's going to maintain positions, but he's still going to work towards submissions. Even though he is primarily a grappler who averages about 2 takedowns per fight, he has technical striking and can hang with most people. He uses solid low kicks to set up takedowns and is surprisingly young, as I mentioned, given his experience. He's coming off that win over a short notice step up in Jesse Butler, where he had a great takedown, excellent control. But, and this is going to sound bizarre considering he won and won by finish, he looked like he didn't care. He was just almost too relaxed. Like, and it was easy, and maybe that's why, but he looked pretty uninterested in that fight before getting the finish. He's taking on Ludovit Klein. Ludovit Klein is a very good striker. He's smooth. He's fast. He's accurate. He does a really nice job keeping fights technical, hiding kicks behind his jab, and doing all the things that you would expect a high-level kickboxer to do. He never throws anything lazy. He never gets out of position. He's got a solid 83% takedown defense and will look to offensively wrestler if he is losing those striking exchanges. He's coming off that finish win over AJ Cunningham, where he was, I mean, the dude was a minus 900 favorite, and he looked like a minus 900 favorite. No surprises in that fight. Both of these guys just blew out their last opponents. But that doesn't tell you much because their last opponents, with all due respect, are not really UFC level kind of guys. I apologize if that hurt your feelings. You're going to see that Moises has had more high-level fights. He has fought at a high level for longer than Ludovit Klein, but he hasn't won all of them. And Ludovit Klein is out here being a little bit more dominant. There's some blips here and there, obviously, but he has been dominant. He has looked good. He is steadily improving, and he looks like he might end up being that guy. I like Ludovit Klein here. I think the striking is going to be too good. I think the takedown defense will hold up, or at least hold up as much as it needs to. If Thiago gets the wrestling going, then yeah, this could be a long, boring-ass Grant Dawson night. But I do think Ludovit Klein can keep it standing. The longer the fight goes, the more it's going to favor Ludovit. The sloppier they're going to get. They're going to get sweaty. It's going to be harder to get these takedowns. Thiago's not like some Division I Jordan Burroughs double up the middle kind of wrestler. He's like, oh, you overcommitted to a strike? Let me see what I can get here. So I think Ludovit wins this fight. I'm pretty high on Ludovit. And I have a half a unit bet on him at minus 125. I am surprised that's what those odds are. I honestly expected him to be a little bit higher. I was thinking Ludovit would, I don't know, minus 180. And maybe I'm crazy. And you guys will let me know if you think I'm wrong, because you always do. Then we have Brad Katona taking on Jesse Butler. Brad Katona, I believe, as of right now, is one of the, if not the biggest favorite on the entire card. And I get it. This guy's loaded with skills, and he can make stuff happen. He's won the Ultimate Fighter 2 times. He won the most recent season of the Ultimate Fighter. And then if you go back in time, he also won season 27. So a 2-time Ultimate Fighter champion. He has a submission over Bryce Mitchell. The tongue, the swollen tongue. A submission over Bryce Mitchell. Style-wise, he is a mobile striker. Don't let that submission convince you he's a grappler. He's a mobile striker with power and volume. And while he is primarily a striker, he has high enough fight IQ. He is aware enough to transition to wrestling when he needs to. He's got great low kicks, solid takedown defense, plenty of cardio. He's coming off that extremely close loss to Garrett Armfield, where he had 4 takedowns, but he didn't do much with them, and ultimately he landed fewer strikes. He's taking on Jesse Butler. This guy is a grappler. Takedowns are okay. Takedown defense is absolutely terrible. Where he is striking, he likes to move forward and just bomb. It's just, there's no technique there. But he is not afraid of a firefight. He's not a coward. Ultimately, he got a UFC contract for being a short notice step up. And this fight is his, like, okay, here's your second chance. Like, thank you, you stepped up. Here's your second fight. He's coming off the 23-second knockout loss to Jim Miller on short notice, where he landed literally one single strike before getting finished. Brad getting 4 takedowns in his last fight only shows you how versatile and self-aware he is. He was getting out-volumed, so then he switched up his game plan, started to wrestle. Jesse Butler, again, I'm not trying to be rude. Without being rude here, is not UFC level. He's had a few slick submissions, but that doesn't have enough juice. He doesn't have the striking to be dangerous on the feet. He doesn't have the wrestling to force this to the ground. And while his jiu-jitsu is there, it's not Mackenzie Dern on the ground. Jesse Butler gets smoked. Brad should dominate this fight, even though it will likely be a decision. Brad's not a prolific finisher, if you will, but Brad should blow through Jesse Butler here. Then we have a returning Cody Stamann. He's been out for a full year. He is coming back. He is fighting Taylor Lapilus. Cody Stamann's a pretty well-rounded guy that has been in this game for a very long time. Even if he hasn't been fighting MMA since day one, he has done all the things. He's been boxing since he was 16 years old. He has wrestled at all levels, including in college. He's a good technical striker. He sets a nice pace. He doesn't necessarily have that raw power to threaten a finish with that one punch, but he will stay busy. He averages more than 2 takedowns per fight. He has a 76% takedown defense. He's coming off that decision loss to Douglas Silva de Andrade, where he looked really sharp, had a big takedown, but he was getting touched up just a little bit. He's taking on Taylor Lapilus. This guy is a fantastic kickboxer. He's got incredible footwork. He does a very good job working in and out of range. He comes in for his attacks, throws combinations, and then he will strike on his way out. By the time his opponents are throwing their own attacks back at him, he's gone. He's out of the pocket. Taking Taylor down is going to be your path to victory, but it is not going to be the easiest thing to do. He does a really good job defending the actual takedown, stuffing the head, working the underhooks, moving his hips, instead of just these fake half head strikes that do nothing and don't improve your position. He is coming off that decision loss to Farid Basharat, where the takedown defense looked great, but he just did not throw. Just so tentative, defending takedowns and doing nothing with his hands. And listen, I am going to lean Taylor here because he is I think, the better all-around fighter. His takedown defense is absolutely outstanding. My concern, though, is this could look like his last fight, where he was so narrowly focused on defending takedowns, he didn't do anything offensively. And if he's just going to be a low-volume, do-nothing offensive kind of guy, and Cody's moving forward, Cody's shooting takedowns. Even if he's not getting him, he's moving forward. He's pressuring. He's ducking his head. He's bombing. Cody could win this decision. I am going to pick Taylor. I think the footwork will be too good. I think the in and out range will be too good. And I'm positive he's going to defend a good amount of these takedowns. But I need him to pick up the volume. I cannot trust him with my money until I see him be a little bit more aggressive in a fight. But Taylor is going to be the pick in this matchup. Then we have a very highly touted prospect that the UFC 100% is going to be pushing, taking on Rayanne Dos Santos. She's got 17 last names, but we will go ahead and break her down. The prospect is Puja Tomar. They are very high on her, and they definitely want her to come in here and then bring India with her. She's a fast, aggressive striker who loves coming forward and bringing fights to her opponents. Every single strike that she throws is with intent, and she mixes those strikes up really well. Everything from pocket boxing to range kickboxing. She definitely has some grappling holes, though, and she can be taken down and controlled as well as submitted. She is advertising herself as the first female Indian fighter, and she has a massive, tremendous fan base, and that's what the UFC is looking to do here. Bring her in, get her some wins, bring those fans with her. I mean, that's clearly a humongous market with billions and billions of people. She's taking on Rayanne Dos Santos, also listed as Rayanne Amanda. She is an aggressive grappler, which is not going to bode well in this matchup, but she is an aggressive grappler with fluid and busy striking when she does hang out on the feet. She's incredibly light on her feet, with constant movement and activity. She doesn't get overly aggressive with her wrestling, but when she does get it to the ground, she's got a great balance of ground and pound, as well as positions and submissions. She will keep pressure, she will stay busy, and she will look for a submission. Her takedown defense is solid as well, with nice sprawls that she turns into takedowns of her own. And she's coming off that controversial loss to Talita Alencar, where she won the striking exchanges and defended 8 takedowns. The odds for this fight are new. They just dropped today, and Rayanne Dos Santos is almost a 2-1 favorite. She is minus 180, and that makes sense. Puja is a prospect. She is 100% someone the UFC will want to push. She's attractive. She's coming from a region with a massive fan base, but she has giant grappling holes, and Rayanne is just going to expose them. I love Puja's fight style. I love that Puja will come forward and stay aggressive, but I don't think she can defend the takedowns. Therefore, I don't think she wins. When we get the prop bets, I'll take a look, see if there's something worth doing there. But for now, 2-1 odds on Rayanne dos Santos makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. What I will say, though, is the Indian community is a very proud community. They support their people. They enjoy watching fights, and many of them enjoy gambling. I am curious to see these odds. The -180 odds on Rayanne dos Santos just dropped. I am curious to see what happens over the course of the week, because those odds may get pushed. You may get the public money, the droves of public money coming in on their girl Puja. And that could push the line tighter and tighter, and we can end up with better value on Rayanne dos Santos. I am going to be monitoring the line movement tracker. If you don't know what that is one of our tools. Just go to WeWantPicks.com. If you click Become a Member at the top, it's only $10. You'll unlock everything we do for an entire month, including the bets and the tools. The line movement tracker is going to show you the opening odds, the current odds, the win probability, and the line movement for every fighter on every card, so we can very quickly see the odds when this fight opened and where they are at that point in time. If this tightens, I'm going to keep an eye on it, and I may end up betting just straight up money line on Rayanne dos Santos. But at -180, I don't love it, and if that continues to widen, I'll definitely leave it alone. But if that tightens and we're looking at a -150 situation, I'll go ahead and I'll lay some money out. Then we have Eduarda Moura taking on Denise Gomes. Back to back lady scraps. Eduarda Moura is a grappler with solid takedowns and submissions. She is very aggressive with her grappling, and she wastes absolutely no time coming across a cage, initiating takedowns and working. Her striking is a bit sloppy, but like so many others, it is just there to set up the takedown. She's coming off that ground and pound finish win over Montserrat Ruiz. She's taking on Denise Gomes. Denise Gomes is a striker who can grapple as well. She can be hittable, but is incredibly tough and never out of a fight. She will continue to move forward, bite down, and bomb away. It takes her a few minutes to get going, but once she is dialed in, she picks up the pace and has no problem taking one to give one. She works in kicks well and can be dangerous on the ground. She's coming off that decision loss to Angela Hill, where she was taken down 5 times. Listen, as many of you know, I'm incredibly good at math. It's the math that I can do in my head like that is they should take my brain and study it, because it's astonishing what I can do. And I've got some math. If I was a janitor at a college in Boston and they just had like impossible to solve equations on the wall, when nobody's looking, I would solve it. That's how good my math is. And here's the reality. Let me drop some math on you. If Angela Hill can take down Denise Gomes 5 times and Eduarda Moura can take down a national wrestling champion 3 times, ipso facto, you reverse the percentages, and Eduarda Moura beats the shit out of Denise Gomes. So there's your pick. Math doesn't lie. And you know what else doesn't lie? The $50 bonus. Go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Use the link. Sign up with any one of the partners. Make a deposit, and we send you $50. It's affiliate marketing. You're going to use the link. You're going to sign up. They're going to pay me money to say thank you for bringing us this customer. And then I'm going to slice off some of that money, and I'm going to give it right back to you. WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up, make a deposit, and we will get you paid. Also, if you would like to send some mail, here is the P.O. Box. It's P.O. Box 406 in good old Prosper, Texas, 75078. We got a whole bunch of stuff to open up. We film it. We post it. If you want to send a letter, we've gotten letters. If you want to send food, I have destroyed my body eating the food. And if you have a small business and you want us to talk about your business and something you send, we are happy to do so. You can send that here, P.O. Box 406, Prosper, Texas, 75078. We will do it for every single Fight Foods vlog. We have a main card. We have 6 fights on this main card. The main card opener is a rebooked fight. We got Raul Rosas Jr. taking on Ricky Turcios. This fight was supposed to happen back in February, but it was canceled on fight day when Rosas got sick in the locker room. Then there were rumors they're just going to move this fight a week. But then that got scrapped because Turcios was like, no, I don't want to fight then. And good for him. He got railroaded for not wanting to just run this fight back the following week. And good for him. Like, no. That dude's the one who got sick out of nowhere and the fight was canceled. So I don't want to fight next week. I'm not going to fight next week. So good for him. But we got Raul Rosas Jr. taking on Ricky Turcios. Raul Rosas Jr. is a non-stop grappler. He did show us some power in his last fight. He had 8 takedowns in 4 fights, 19 minutes of control time. His striking definitely needs some work as he comes in a little reckless and can be putting himself into harm's way for no reason, but he is fast, he's athletic, and he is absolutely relentless with his pace. He's coming off that sub-1 minute knockout win over Terrence Mitchell all the way back at Noche UFC. Taking on Ricky Turcios. This guy's very fun to watch. He's got a crazy style. He moves forward with a ton of pressure, an insane variety of strikes. He will throw anything from anywhere. He's going to smile while doing it. In half of his UFC fights, he landed more than 100 significant strikes, and that includes a loss. He doesn't have much to offer outside of high volume, high pace because he's got a very low 25% takedown accuracy, a sub 50% takedown defense. He is coming off that controversial win over Kevin Natividad where he was dropped and taken down 7 times, but still relentless pressure, and he created enough scrambles to get the nod. This should be easy. This should be Raul Rosas Jr. with as many takedowns as he wants. How about that Latin flair? Not great at math and Latin flair. I mean, sometimes I just got to thank the big man for making me as good as I am at things. Raul Rosas Jr. should win this fight with takedown after takedown after takedown. That's what should happen. And it probably does happen, and he will be the pick. But he's a low confidence pick because I will caution you, look at Ricky Turcios' last fight. The guy was taken down 7 times. Relentless pressure. Crazy scrambles, working up, continue to move forward. He didn't care that he was taken down over and over and over. He doesn't get tired. Raul Rosas Jr. does get tired. Raul should win this fight. He absolutely should win this fight. But a wild, busy, scramble-heavy guy like Ricky Turcios could make this close enough to get a weird decision, could make this close enough to steal around, could make this a weird fight. We've seen Rosas death gas before. It may happen again. I doubt it. I think he's corrected those mistakes. He's still so insanely young that he is improving dramatically between each fight. Raul Rosas Jr. is going to be the pick. I don't think I'm betting on him anywhere. I don't think the dude canceled his fight on fight night in the locker room last time. We've seen him get exhausted and lose. And Ricky Turcios just won a fight where he was taken down 7 times. This will be a ton of fun to watch, not a ton of fun to bet on. I'm going to leave that alone. Then we have Miguel Baeza coming back. Also a long 2-year layoff kind of guy to take on Punahele Soriano. Punahele Soriano is a fluid striker. He's got a ton of power. He could put most people out on their feet. He was a Division III All-American wrestler, which on the surface is like, wow. But then he doesn't wrestle. And then he gets taken down very easily. But he was a Division III All-American wrestler, and that is an accomplishment that is worth noting. He has been taken down 18 times, though, in his 8 UFC fights. He can be first round or bust, but he does retain his power later in fights. He's coming off that loss to Dustin Stoltzfus, where he was out-wrestled and ultimately submitted. He's taking on Miguel Baeza. This guy's a very good technical striker with solid BJJ. He's coming off 3 losses and a 2-year layoff. But he is still young at only 31 years old. He does a really good job using his kicks to take away your legs and then wears you down with cardio. He's got very, very tough fight style, but not a great chin. His chin was solid, and then Chaos Williams just literally took it from him. That no longer a solid chin. His 2 most recent losses are knockouts. One to Paulo Fiallo, and then the other 2 Chaos Williams. Miguel Baeza, I mentioned, 3 losses in a row. 2 most recent were finishes. A full 2 years outside of the cage, but he is still a favorite here, and that's kind of crazy to me. I get it. Punahele is losing fights that he shouldn't be losing. He's also getting finished, and he's unreliable. I understand all of those things. But again, both of these dudes are sloppy. Both of them are getting finished. One of them should not be closing in on a 2-1 favorite. This should be an even fight. I am going to lean Punahele here. Multi-year layoffs have not been boding well for people the last couple of months. He is a Division III All-American wrestler. That's almost a point not even worth mentioning, but he is. He does have some power in his hands. Punahele is going to be the pick, but for the love of money, leave your money alone. Don't bet on this fight. We could get an instant knockout. 2 guys that have been getting finished like crazy, we could get an instant knockout. Or this could be just sloppy as shit for 15 full minutes. Leave it alone. I am picking Punahele. I'm not going to pick the guy with a 2-year layoff that's been getting finished left and right, fighting a guy with nuts power that at least has been active. And speaking of nuts power, we got Bruno Ferreira taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. Bruno Ferreira is very powerful. He's a very powerful striker who is light on his feet. He's constantly mixing up his attacks. He bounces on his toes, which really helps him come in and out of the pocket. He has incredible spinning techniques and all finishes on his record. Even though he is fast and powerful and a good striker with all finishes, he's not reckless. And there are times where he's actually low volume and you're just like, let's go. But he's just waiting for those shots. He doesn't get reckless and he takes his time. He can grapple as well. He's got some powerful takedowns, some slick BJJ, but he is definitely a striker and he is only using his grappling if he's in trouble or if his opponent's initiated. He's coming off that knockout win over Philip Hawes. He's taking on Dusty Stoltz. And Dusty Stoltz is a busy striker himself with some pretty good power. He's got a BJJ black belt. He's been wrestling more as of late with 10 takedowns in his last 4 fights. He likes to hang out and strike inside the pocket as well, which isn't the best idea because he's got a questionable chin. His record is interesting because you will see there's a win against Joe Pyfer. And you're going to be like, oh, I know Joe Pyfer's the fraud from Philly, but Joe Pyfer's pretty good. Nah, Joe Pyfer broke his arm in that fight. That wasn't like a full-blown legitimate win. But the rest of Dustin's losses are actually quality. He lost to 3 good grapplers and 1 very good striker. This should be a fun fight. It should be a quick fight in either direction. Personally, I love Bruno here. He's got a ton of power. He's fighting somebody with no chin. Bruno is sitting at as a minus 260 favorite. That honestly, just gut feeling, instant reaction, that feels like a discount. Obviously, what ends up happening is the more you stare at odds and the more you look at it, the more you convince yourself something is horrible or amazing. I tend to convince myself something is horrible. The longer I look at it, the more I'm like, but my gut reaction was minus 260, no problem. He should dominate this fight. So I'm going to lean into that. Obviously, if Dustin has this new Nurmagomedov mentality, which we have seen in his last couple of fights, that could be a problem for Bruno, but Bruno hits so hard. He can connect. He could absolutely get it done. Then we have a returning OnlyFans model in Julian Marquez taking on Zachary Reese. Julian Marquez, pretty well-rounded. He's incredibly tough, but he does fade later in fights. All 9 of his wins are by stoppage, and they're a mixed bag of knockouts and submissions. He doesn't typically work for takedowns and then find submissions. He will just snatch them up in scrambles. He's very dangerous everywhere, but he's coming off back-to-back knockout losses and a year-long layoff. His most recent loss was a standing TKO from Marc-Andre Barrault, where he threw everything hard. He did have some early success, was easily getting hit with the jab, though, and then he gassed in the second. He's taking on Zachary Reese. Zachary Reese is a massive guy for middleweight. He is 6'4", and he uses all of that size and strength in his fights. He is very well-rounded, but mostly a powerful striker who absolutely uncorks. He does seem stiff. He seems tightly wound, like very tight, not a ton of movement, but he throws really hard and he can be technical. He doesn't initiate takedowns often, but he does use his takedown defense to end up on top. On the ground, he's got great BJJ from top and bottom, where he will use his length to wrap you up. The bottom jiu-jitsu can be a problem. I am not a fan of bottom jiu-jitsu. I prefer that if you get taken down and you use some jiu-jitsu, it's to create a scramble and stand back up. Zach wants to submit from bottom. And last fight, Zach was on the ground, and he had a nice triangle, and then he got power bombed on his head, got put unconscious, and that's what you get for playing the ground game instead of just creating a scramble and getting back to your feet. Zach Reese, I have not jumped off the bandwagon yet. I was all aboard that absurd hype train, and I went flying off when that train was derailed. With that being said, though, I do still think he's very good. I do wish he was less of a jiu-jitsu nerd off of his back. I wish he would rather create a scramble and fight like a man instead of just triangle, boom, I'm unconscious. I would prefer if he removed that from his game, but I don't think Julian's going to take him down here. I think Dak can avoid sort of the early chaos, the early pressure from Julian, weather that storm, and then beat a fledgling Marquez. The odds have Zach as a slight underdog. This is another monitor the line movement situation. He might continue to move and become a bigger and bigger dog? And if so, if we get some better value, I will hop on it. If it starts to go the other way and Zach starts to close the line, become a little bit of a favorite, move that direction, I may hit him before it goes too far. Zach Reese is going to be my pick. I am going to drink my own champagne, eat my own dog food, use my own tools in the line movement tracker to see when it is appropriate to place that bet. If you are a premium member, make sure you go to your account page and link your Discord. While the Discord is 100% free, once you link your premium, you have unlocked certain channels. One of those channels is the alerts channel. That's how you will get push notifications to your phone when I place a bet, when Jacob places a bet, when things happen. If you love the bet, great. You can hop on it right then and there at those odds. If you don't, that's fine. Put your phone back down and get on to doing whatever the hell you were doing, but don't miss out on that movement. Zach Reese is going to be the pick. I will keep an eye on that line. Then we have one of the greatest light heavyweights of all time. We have Dominic Reyes in an all-time streak, taking on Dustin Jacoby. Dominic Reyes is a former title challenger, and while I was clearly being sarcastic there, a lot of people think he beat John Jones in that fight. A lot of people think that. And then since that fight, he just continues to get knocked out over and over and over again. He also hasn't fought in what feels like an eternity. But he does have some good skills. He is primarily a striker. He's got some decent power, some clean technique, some good timing. He has 2 takedowns in the UFC. His takedown percentage is low at 28%, but a very solid 80% takedown defense. And it's easy to say what I just said. He's on a 4-fight losing streak and blah, 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 blah. But those 4 losses are all to the last 3 light heavyweight champions of the world and then Ryan Spann. The reality is Dominic Reyes is good. His chin is not good, but his skills are good. Ultimately, he's a very talented guy that lost his chin. He's taking on Dustin Jacoby. This is a high-level kickboxer who, during his kickboxing stint in Glory, I got there. In Glory, was ranked number 2 in the world. He does a great job keeping things technical. He'll work your legs. He's very technically sound. He's got good power and good volume. A 60% takedown defense, but that number is understated. His takedown defense is better than that number. He does a great job making you pay on the way in. He is coming off that close loss to Alonzo Menafield, where outside of getting dropped, which obviously isn't great, but outside of getting dropped, he won the striking exchanges. I feel bad for Dominic Reyes at this point. The guy hasn't won a fight in 5 years. He hasn't actually fought in a year and a half, and he dodged a bullet when he was scheduled to fight Carlos Ulberg and then pulled out. Dustin has had a few stumbles in the last 2 years, but he still wins this fight. Dustin's the better striker, even if they fought before Reyes' skid, and that's the only thing that matters here. Dominic is very long. He could potentially play that reach range game, but I think Dustin cuts through it, stays safe, and retires Dominic Cruz. Dustin Jacoby is going to be the pick, and poor Dominic Reyes literally worked his way into a title shot, fought the greatest of all time. A lot of people for weeks, months, he beat him. So he was living large off the I beat John Jones. Came out, next fight, I beat John Jones, feeling good, unconscious. Fight after that, unconscious. Fight after that, unconscious. Now he hasn't fought in a year and a half and it's crazy. This sport is so unforgiving. It is crazy. At one point in time, he's a wildly hyped prospect. He's only 29 years old. He almost just beat the GOAT, and then just 3 knockout losses in a row. It's crazy what happens to people in this sport. Then we have the main event of the evening. We have a 40-year-old Jared Cannonier taking on Nasruddin Imavov. And I emphasized 40 there because it's honestly kind of shocking. You see some fighters and you think they're 49 and they're 32. And then you have fighters like Jared Cannonier, who is actually 40 years old, which doesn't bode well typically, who is actually 40 years old, that in his last fight looked like he was 23, busier than ever, great cardio, good pressure, did all the things. So I emphasize the 40 because I don't know how much it matters, and that will affect this breakdown. Jared Cannonier is a very powerful and incredibly dangerous guy. He's going to switch from southpaw to orthodox. He will throw kicks from both sides, solid grappling defense, a solid chin. He only averages less than half a takedown per 15 minutes, but he did just take down Marvin Vettori 4 times in that win. When he ends up on top, he's got a ton of power and a ton of pressure. He looked better than ever in that last fight, as I mentioned, with not only 4 takedowns, but plenty of forward pressure and tons of striking volume. He's taken on the giant Nasruddin Imavov. He's a busy striker. He's constantly working forward, working towards his opponents. He can strike and counter-strike the entire time. He has a nice jab, solid elbows, and he looks very comfortable mixing it all up. He has takedowns and solid control when he wants to use them, but he doesn't always use them. He averages about 1 takedown per fight, but doesn't rely on them often. He's coming off the one-sided win over Roman Dolidze, where he dropped him and 5 times his significant strikes. I mentioned Jared is 40. Historically, being 40 in this sport doesn't work out. But as it was pointed out to me by the person who has developed our artificial intelligence, if you don't know, we've got PickGPT. That's an artificial intelligence that picks fights just based solely off of data. And it's doing so with incredible accuracy. The gentleman who designed that and built it, when I was talking to him, he pointed out these old dudes be winning. He didn't say it like that. He's an educated man. He said the older people are winning. Ever since USADA left, older fighters are doing remarkably well, or at least disproportionately well from during the USADA reign. And I'm not accusing Jared Cannonier or anything, and they are clearly still testing fighters. But for whatever reason, older fighters have had success at a higher rate in the last 6 months than the last 5 years, and that is true. But even with that dynamic, age doesn't matter for Cannonier because he beat Marvin Vettori 10 months ago. He looked better than ever, and that was during the USADA reign. So again, I'm not accusing him of anything. I'm just pointing out that old fighters recently doesn't matter that they're old. His forward pressure, his volume were incredible before, but as incredible as he looked in that last fight, that matchup was very different than this one. Marvin can be hittable. That dude can be a punching bag, whereas Imavov is massive. He manages range well. This is a really tough fight to pick because that last Jared Cannonier, the nonstop forward pressure guy, I think he wins this fight. But I don't know if that's who he was because he was fighting a human Lego or if that's who he is all the time now. I'm not sure. But I like it. I'm going to shoot my shot. I'm going Jared Cannonier in the hopes that that last fight, his last performance was not a one-off. And I think we can all agree, before you say Imavov wins, all that nonsense, I think we can at least agree that the version that fought Marvin Vettori can beat Imavov. I think we can agree. We agree. I answer for all of us. We agree. Guys, that is the breakdown. I appreciate every single one of you. We hit 25,000 subscribers this past weekend, and I cannot be grateful enough for that. So thank you so much. And what I can do for you is give you $50. And I know that sounds ridiculous. It's a shameless plug. But the reality is I could just be pushing the affiliate links and not offer a bonus on them. But I'm going to take some of our money. They're going to pay me. You're going to go to wewantpicks.com/bets. You're going to use the link. You're going to sign up. We will get paid. And the story could end there, but it doesn't. I slice off $50 of that money and I send it to you as a thank you. We got a ton of signups going into UFC 302, so we are working through all of that. Use the link, sign up. We will get you paid. If you want to use $10 of that $50, you can become a premium member. Premium membership is going to take care of you from now all the way through UFC 303, the Conor McGregor card. And premium membership will get you picks, bets, round line leans, that artificial intelligence tools like the line movement tracker, tools like the detailed digit and metrics, tools like the DraftKings optimizer, tools like the artificial intelligence, people like Artem breaking down UFC, regional shows, PFL, Bellator, all the fights, and the running mouth, guys. WeWantPicks.com. Click become a member at the top. It is only $10 for an entire month's worth of content.